You know what that means. It's Thursday night and time for Explain and Verify with Samkele Maseko. And tonight we're looking at the fuel levy. Good evening, Samkele.
A very good evening to you, Bongiwe. Indeed, this issue of the fuel levy is a very thorny issue amongst South Africans, particularly when you see this particular number behind me of R6.14. That is particularly how much the government takes from every litre of petrol you buy, and it's climbing up every year. Tonight we break down the untold story of the fuel levy, how it started, why it keeps rising, and why your grocery bill is about to get even more expensive. Looking at this particular slide, Bongiwe, rewinding, going back to when the fuel levy began in 1989, it was just 10 cents per litre. Back then, you could fill a small car for less than 30 rands. Well, today, that same 30 rands just buys you just over 1 litre. But here's the kicker. While the fuel levy grew 60-fold, average salaries only increased 20-fold. That mathematics doesn't work for workers like you and I, Bongiwe. For instance, going back to the slide that we just had that explains this particular fuel levy. For instance, in 1990, it was 10 cents for a fuel levy, 8% of the petrol price. 10 cents, 8% of the petrol price. That was the fuel levy. Year 2000, one rand, levy, 28% of the fuel price. Go to 2024, 6 rands, 14 cents levy. Right now, when you buy a litre of petrol, Bongiwe, for 22 rands, 14 cents, 6 rands, 14 cents goes to the fuel levy. That is 27% of the price. So that essentially is where this fuel levy goes back to. Going on to our next particular slide. So this is where this money actually goes. 3 rand 96 cents to the National Treasury's fund. That essentially speaks to the fund that the Treasury controls. 2 rands 18 cents goes to the Road Accident Fund. But that's where the problem lies. For instance, if you look at the slide, this 2 rands 18 cents that goes to the Road Accident Fund, the very same Road Accident Fund that is plagued with problems. 3 rands 95 cents goes to National Treasury of the country. That essentially gives you a mindset of when you drive on those roads within South Africa. For instance, if you look at the deficit that Bongiwe, the Road Accident Fund, is faced with, it is 3 billion rands in debt. Despite these levies, the Road Accident Fund is 3 billion rands in debt, Bongiwe, despite this particular 2 rands 18 cents that goes to the Road Accident Fund from this particular levy, Bongiwe.
And Samkele, then one would ask the question as to what's the point of it all?
The point of it all, essentially, with the Road Accident Fund being 300 billion rands in debt, some of these particular funds are should be used for road maintenance, but most of it is not effectively being used for road maintenance. Hence, you look at the poor road infrastructure within the country particularly, but also with the breaking down of the 3 spheres of government: national, provincial, and local municipality. There are some roads that are the competency of local governments, and that becomes the competency of roads agencies within those particular municipalities. To take the city of Johannesburg, for example, COJ would have the Johannesburg Roads Agency, which will have a number of roads within the ambit of the municipality that are under their control. They must fix the potholes within those roads. They must make sure the street lights are working within those roads. They must make sure that those roads are tarred with the particular asphalt within all the roads of the municipality. Then you've got provincial roads that are the ambit of the provincial government that fall under the Department of Transport provincially. That would be under MEC Kidiboni Diale in the province of Gauteng, under Siboniso Duma in a province like KwaZulu-Natal. Go to Limpopo under the MEC Tony Rachwena, if I'm not mistaken there. Tony Rachwena, particularly knowing that you've got the Roads Agency of Limpopo that has the ambit of making sure that the roads within that particular province are up to standard. You go to Mpumalanga, there's a Department of Transport under Thulasizwe Thomo within that particular province. Then you've got national that also comes in. So it then varies how this particular fuel levy is then spent by the country, but the funds that are then dispersed to National Treasury are then dispersed to all provinces of the country, Bongiwe. But going to our very last slide, so every levy will have a particular increase that will show the livelihoods of South Africans. It is a slide before this particular one that looks at RAF's overhaul, which are some of the solutions to make sure that this particular fund of the fuel levy is used effectively. Government must come up with alternative taxes in order not to increase the fuel levy, because at this point in time, if we look at the fuel levy, we will go back to this previous slide that we have just skipped, that will look at alternative taxes and the impact that this fuel levy will have on South Africans. Bongiwe, it's not this particular slide, it is a slide that speaks about the cost of living of South Africans, that will essentially tell you what the impact of this fuel levy will have on South Africans. Government will have to efficiently spend this particular money that comes out of the 6 rands 14 cents of the fuel levy. It has sparked outrage, this particular fuel levy. You know, the Economic Freedom Fighters has decided to go to court on this particular matter, because on the slide that I was speaking about, which speaks about how this will impact ordinary South Africans, it effectively means that the cost of fuel transport will effectively go up for South Africans going to work. Taxi fares will be raised by about 2 rands to 5 rands by taxi bosses and taxi associations. It will effectively mean that those who have consumables going to the shops, there will be an increase of about 3% on our food items that we'll be buying from grocery shops. That will ultimately impact the cost of living for many South Africans, noting that this particular budget that has been presented by the Minister of Finance, Enoch Madiba Kotongwane, has effectively erased the zero-rated basket for South Africans, knowing that it is an issue that they're also using to raise those particular funds that government needs, noting very well that that zero-rated basket had an impact on many South Africans. Knowing now that the fuel levy is going up, the cost of living will ultimately go up, it will have an impact on the lives of ordinary South Africans, Bongiwe, which effectively means that when you are paying for fuel at a petrol station, that's 6 rands 14 cents that goes to government. You must know that it is going into government's purse, where it is relatively not doing well right now. Government's tax collection is not doing well. Government revenue is not there. Municipalities are not collecting as much rates and taxes from South Africans as they should be. The standard of service delivery has ultimately gone down. That 6 rands 14 cents of yours is going into a fund that is not being effectively used by government, due to the nature of maladministration and corruption that is taking place within municipalities. You look at an Auditor General's report of late of the procurement systems within the city of Johannesburg, saying that most contracts within the city have been awarded to individuals that are close to administrators within the city of Johannesburg, or close to councillors within the Johannesburg City Council Metro. And Joburg tops the list of those municipalities within the country. And Joburg is one of the worst affected metro municipalities when it comes to potholes, malfunctioning robots, and ultimately a road infrastructure that has deteriorated.
And it could not even provide quality statements, for this auditing, period. And it really raises the question, Samkele, as you say, because South Africans will say there is, of course, maybe relief in one area, but you're taking this relief now and putting it in another area. And the more they don't see what their money is doing or effectively working for them as the residents, therein lies the concern.
Therein lies the concern, but it goes directly to the point I was raising, that the standard and quality of services that South Africans are receiving from the government has deteriorated over a period of time. You look at what the president said in the Johannesburg Council chambers. He basically said that he felt as if a few months ago he was driving through a dark city when he was going home to his family home in Shawelo in Soweto. And that just tells you at the deterioration of the state of service delivery in the metro of Johannesburg. You go to a municipality like eThekwini as well. He's had to send a presidential team led by the former Director General, Dr. Cassius Lubisi, to try and fix that particular municipality, turn it around. There is some work that is seemingly being done by the likes of himself, Dr. Cassius Lubisi, Michael Mabuya Kulu, and the other administrators that have been sent to that municipality, and the likes of the mayor, Mr. Cyril Kaba, in trying to turn that particular metro around. But it gives you a tale of two cities, once said one politician. When you look at the affluent areas of South Africa, just opposed to the poorer areas. Just take it Khayelitsha, check it Gugulethu, check it Nyanga, go to Alexandra, go to Kwamashu, go to Chesterville, go to other poor areas within the country, go to Juju Valley within Limpopo in Sishiko, go to Inimatigizela Mandela informal settlement, and there's even an informal settlement named after the incumbent President Cyril Ramaphosa in Ekurhuleni. That just tells you the deplorable socio-economic conditions that South Africans live, and when they take those taxis, ferrying them to work, ferrying kids to school, that taxi driver, that taxi owner, that 22 rands 14 cents that they will be paying per litre for fuel, 6 rands 14 cents will be going to government that is failing to fix potholes. Once the resident of the country yesterday told me that they have had to change their car tire 3 times in the past 2 months because
I've changed
of heating.
it twice. I've changed it twice, so I can actually say that I do understand what that viewer is talking about.
Well, that 6 rands 14 cents that you will be paying for that particular fuel levy will be ultimately not effectively used, as you will be changing your tire more frequently. But here's the truth. This fuel levy is much needed by the government in order to raise the tax base. But the truth of the matter is the cost of living of ordinary South Africans, all South Africans, whether rich or poor, whether eating is ambanel kapondo, as those others may say, it will affect all and sundry. The cost of living will go up. You will be paying more for your fuel, but ultimately, will the services improve? You're paying for a system that is seemingly running on empty, where the Minister of Finance has had to increase the cost of living for everyone. Effectively, was the 2% VAT increase better, or is the fuel levy better? Share your stories with hashtag Fuel Levy Pain. I am Samkele Maseko. Good night.
All right, Samkele puts it there succinctly. Do share, of course, your stories with us. We're keen to hear from you. Hashtag Fuel Levy Pain. That is Samkele Maseko there, waiting to hear from you on what is your take on this matter.